Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker University's teleclass series. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson, and we bring you quarterly learning that will help catapult your speaking career. Our guest expert today is Bob Burg. Bob, I'm so excited that you're here. A while back, my partner and colleague, Joe Calloway, introduced us, and I have to tell you, everybody, Bob is the real deal. There's no smoke and mirrors here. I don't think that we have to watch out for with Bob, and I'm pretty excited to share with you some of the things that he has to offer. So let me just give you a little intro. Bob Burg speaks for corporations and associations internationally with audiences ranging from 60 to 16,000. The groups include Fortune 500 companies, franchises, and numerous direct sales organizations. Although first known for his book Endless Referrals, Bob's book The Go-Giver shot to number 6 on the Wall Street Journal's business bestseller list just 3 weeks after its release and reached number 9 on Business Week. It's an international bestseller and has been translated into 21 languages, and his books in total have sold over 1 million copies. His business model includes speaking, a certification program, subscription programs, and of course lots and lots of product, and that's what we're going to delve into today. From Jupiter, Florida, please welcome Bob Burg, everybody. Thank you so much, Bob, for being here with us.
My pleasure, Jane. Great to be with you.
Well, I can't wait to just dive right in. So talk to us about the beginning of your career and what one of the very first flashpoints, and what we call flashpoints in the Wealthy Speaker 2.0, are times when your career just kind of ratcheted up a few more levels. Mm-hmm. Tell us about one of the times earlier in your career when you felt like you had hit into flash.
Well, that's actually quite an easy one, because the biggest starter or accelerator, in a sense, was when I joined National Speakers Association, and this was back in the late 80s. And it was when I learned that the speaking business was a business. It wasn't just a matter of being able to give a good presentation or even being knowledgeable about a topic, that it was running the business as a business, that it was marketing it. And you and I have discussed in the past that the model back then, and it was a good model. It was certainly a model that worked. It was sort of the call, qualify, send, and call until you got the NTPA, the National Trade Professional Association Directory, the State and Regional Association Directory, and you decided on the markets that you wanted to work within, the niche markets, and you called until you got them, and then you began to work both vertically, horizontally, and all those other buzzwords that we use, and if you did it and did it consistently, it was going to work. Back then you wrote articles for a lot of trade magazines, and the hardcover ones, of course, and that helped you. That helped you in the positioning. And it was also at NSA when I first learned that you really should have a book, because that book was going to help position you in the marketplace, and it was going to get you higher fees, and it was going to be the best proactive tool you could use, and that's when I wrote Endless Referrals. So all those things, and the people such as Joe Calloway and the Scott McCains and the people like that, the Mike Franks and all these people, they were a big help. I mean, these were just people who were so hugely successful, and they not only made you feel so welcome, but they really, kind of let you know, if you need something, let us know. And they were always there to answer questions. So all those things were very helpful. That first flashpoint where the career went to a new level happened actually at what was a low point and could have been a career ender or pauser at least. And that was, I was probably about 3 years into the business, I'd say, and it was the kind of business that I was getting the bookings. I was my own marketing person. I was doing all the things I needed to do, and I would get a bunch of bookings, but then I wouldn't be able to sell. I wouldn't be able to sell myself my speaking services. So I'd have these bookings, and I'd come back, and there was nothing left on the in the book. So I had to start marketing again, and then you do that, and you go without money for a while, and you get some engagements. And of course, back then my fee wasn't particularly high, so it took a whole lot of engagements to make any money, and so forth and so on. It went like that, and I was surviving. I wasn't thriving, but I was surviving. And then there came a point, Jane, where everything dried up. And it was really, really discouraging. I was getting to a point, and I remember hearing a speaker at an NSA convention talking about sneaking peeks at the want ads, in the newspaper, thinking, oh, gosh, I might have to go to work. And that's exactly what I was doing. And it came down to a Friday afternoon where I said, at this point, if I don't get some encouraging news, I'm going to have to get really seriously consider and probably get a part-time job selling, and then work the speaking business part-time. But I didn't want to do that because I really loved the business. And I kept calling, nothing was going to happen, and nothing was happening. And then I remembered something I used to do when I was in direct sales, and I called it the one more call rule. And that was at the end of the day, after all my calls,
I know where you're going with this. This is good.
At the end of the day, what I would do is, no matter what, at the very end of the day, when I was ready to leave and the day was over, I made one more call. And knocked on one more door, if that's what it was, or whatever it was. And how often did it happen that one more call actually turned into something? So I said, you know what? It's the least I can do here. I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to make one more call, and if this doesn't happen, I'm going to go home for the weekend, look at the want ad seriously, take stock of things. And I made a call to an organization, Jane, that no way did I feel they would be interested. I didn't, based on what I was speaking on at the time and the kind of organization I thought they were, I just really didn't see there being a chance. But that wasn't the deal. The deal was I was supposed to just make one more call. So I did. And it turned out that company, it wasn't a company, it was an association, had a division. It was actually an organization, a sporting organization. And they had a division where they brought in all these speakers on an ongoing basis for continuing credit. These things, they said we could really use someone who speaks on that. And they had, I think it was 51 what they called sections, which were basically states. And over the course of the next 3 years, I did 41. I spoke at 41 out of those 51 sections.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, not for a great fee, but certainly one that was where I was and what I needed, and it kept me going. And you know what it did? It gave me the confidence to know that I could make this business work. That was a huge, huge turning point for me.
Wow. We love to hear these flash points. Now, I know that another flash point of yours was one of the books. You've had definitely some success with books prior to that, but the Go-Giver book has been a pretty big deal for you. Before we get into the kind of aspects of selling the book and making it a #1, tell us the flavor of the Go-Giver concept, because it so interests me. It was one of my favorite reads this year. I was so excited that you turned it on to me.
Thank you so much. The Go-Giver is a business parable, a business fable, and it was co-authored with a man by the name of John David Mann, who is an absolutely terrific writer and storyteller. I am a how-to author, which when you think of it, a how-to book isn't particularly hard to write. You write down what you know, and so it's a how-to. But a story is different, and this was a fictional story based on a lot of the incidents in the book actually happened, but it was a fictional story. And when I first sat down to write it, because I had a book out for years, that my first big book was called Endless Referrals: Network Your Everyday Contacts into Sales. And that was sort of my fastball, if you will, and that's what I spoke on for years and years. And I had wanted to write a parable because I'd read a lot of parables, starting back with Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World, Klassen's Richest Man in Babylon, and you had the Blanchard and Johnson's books, the 1 Minute series, and people like Chris Widener and Robin Sharma, and just all these people throughout the years. And then you had Spencer Johnson's Who Moved My Cheese. I always loved reading these parables, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool to take the foundational premise of endless referrals, which was all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And the way you develop these relationships is with a genuine focus on bringing value to others. And I thought, wouldn't it be a great idea to write a short story, a parable about that? And I sketched out the characters roughly and began to write, and it took all about a minute, Jane, for me to realize there is a huge difference between writing a how-to book and writing a work of fiction. And while it was outside my comfort zone, that didn't bother me. I can live outside my comfort zone. The challenge was, as Dr. John Maxwell would say, it was outside my strength zone. And I knew that I was not, I really didn't have the ability to do what it would take to make this book the book it could become. So I asked John David Mann, who was an editor-in-chief of a magazine I used to write for, and certain people within a niche market knew John, the work John did. Now he's mainstream and, tons of people know he's very in demand. But it was only a certain niche group that really knew him. Fortunately, I was one of that group that knew him. And so I asked him, and when I say asked, I mean begged and pleaded, for him to co-author the book and be the lead writer and storyteller. And fortunately, he agreed. And, it turned out to be a winner.
Wow.
And the basic premise of the book is simply that shifting your focus, and that's really what it's about, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And again, when we say giving in this context, we mean constantly and consistently providing value to others. Not only is it a nice way to live life, it's actually a very financially profitable way to live life as well. So as long as you understand that value is always in the eyes of the beholder, and that our job is to find ways to provide that value, then, the money follows. That's why we say money is an echo of value.
Nice. And that's certainly something that we've been preaching here at The Wealthy Speaker for a long time, is that it's not just about some get-rich-quick scheme here. You really have to build the value. You have to build the content into your programs, or it's all going to collapse. And so I'm so grateful that the Go Giver book is out there, and I'd recommend everyone go to thegogiver.com to pick it up. We've got it here on the screen. I'm not sure if you all can see the screen, but hopefully you can. So now, the Go Giver also took off in terms of getting onto the bestseller list very, very quickly. What were some of the steps, action items that people can do on the line to take their book up the charts quickly?
Well, one of the things is begin building that, and we hear this word so much, that platform before you need it. We could say that network, that platform, what have you. Nowadays, social media can really help you drive sales of a book, but it certainly is, as you know, Jane, not a matter of just going on there and say, "Hey, can you guys help me out?" That's not gonna do it. You really need to build these know, like, and trust relationships with people before that happens. Before your book is ready to be promoted and published. And so that's the first thing I would do, is I would suggest to people start now, start right now. And many, of course, of the people on this call and who will be listening to it are already doing that. And they have a wonderful social media presence, and they're good at doing that. So keep doing what you're doing in that way. But it's funny. People say well, it's not quantity, it's quality. And to me, that is what we call a false dilemma. A false dilemma can be defined as the unnecessary use of the word "or." Okay, and it's like saying, do you want to be wealthy or happy? Well, why is it one or the other? How about both?
Right.
And so it's saying when people say quality or quantity. No, it's actually both. Now, quality is where you want to focus, of course. But it's just like the law of compensation, law number 2 in the Go Giver, which says your income is determined by how many people you serve as well as how well you serve them. It's great to have quality relationships, but having 3 of them probably isn't going to be enough to have a good online presence and help move the book. So it's both, but the focus needs to be on quality. In fact, if you focus on quality over quantity, then you'll have great relationships, which will result in a much higher quantity of quality. so it's both. It's not one or the other. But really, it's something to start doing and learning how, whether the medium that you're using is Twitter, or you're using various media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, and the others. Learn how to utilize those in such a way that you're constantly and consistently providing value to others. So build that quantity of quality. And as you do that, then you, when your book's ready to go, you're going to have a whole bunch of people who are ready to help you promote it. Now, by the same token, you also want to have your blog. Your blog. My business partner, my brilliant business partner, Kathy Zader, she calls your blog your home base. Okay, that's where your community meets. That's where everything begins. Mm-hmm. And that's why having a great blog where you're not just broadcasting. It's obviously by the very nature of the thing, it starts with a broadcast. But what you're doing is you're inviting conversation, and you're developing that community. And you do this consistently, and you can take the ideas that are in your book and just utilize those as starting points with your blog posts, and get that community going, and then go to other blog posts and leave comments there, and of course, and as everyone on the call knows, this doesn't even need to be said. You cannot promote yourself. You can't say, and hey, come to my blog to blah, blah, blah. But what you can do is give good, edifying responses and be a part of the conversation on those blogs, and people will find you. You can also, as your book is about to be published, start promoting yourself to others in terms of asking if they would like a guest post on their blog, or if they would like to read the book, a review copy of the book. Now, what I'm telling you is not anything magic here. There's nothing earth-shattering here. In fact, Joe Calloway, be the best at what matters most, right? He's going to tell you. There's no, it's not a matter of a wow factor. It's a matter of doing the correct things right consistently.
Right.
So the more relationships you have, and the more you're getting the book out there before it's even out there, the better the chances are you're going to be positioned for the book to do good things.
How about press for you? Did that have a key role in the Go Giver going to up the charts?
We do tons. When I have a book, I'm still interviewing on the Go Giver. Okay, and it hit the bookstores in 2008, and I still do interviews on it. I'm an interview maniac, not necessarily because I like doing interviews. I get kind of bored saying the same thing all the time, which I do. But not everybody else has heard it, and most people haven't. And of course, even when people hear it several times, it might be that third or fourth time that they then take action and get the book. So yes, we do. And what we look for is not necessarily to hit it out of the park by being on the major shows. We'd love that, of course. Whenever that happens, that's great. But it's it's all the shows out there. It's the third tier or second tier morning shows across the country on AM radio or FM radio. It's the blog talk shows. It's the ones in which somebody has a big network marketing organization, and they have calls, where they have team calls, and you are the guest interviewer on those calls, interviewee, on those calls. You go anywhere. Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield used to do that with the Chicken Soup book. They would interview, anytime, anywhere, and you do need to be relentless. You need to be consistent with it is really what the key is. But again, when I'm going to continue because to do it with this book, because it's a book that I want to keep going, and it's worked out well. This book is sort of the Energizer bunny. It just keeps on going, but that's also because we haven't stopped promoting it.
So the go-giver concept, so back to the main concept, is really rather than being a go-getter, you're being a go-giver, which means bringing value.
Can I kind of comment a little bit on that, if I may?
Yeah, for sure. Clarify if I have that wrong.
It's just that, and that is kind of how it sounds, because we think of a go-giver as being opposite of a go-getter, but in a sense what we really want is for people to be go-getters, which we would define as people of action, and go-givers, which are people who focus on bringing value to others. So we always say, be both a go-getter and a go-giver. Don't be a go-taker. Because a go-taker is that person. That's the person who feels almost entitled, if you will.
Right.
They take as though everybody owes them something.
Very good.
So it's just semantics, of course. But
without the action, really, where are we, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, you have taken this concept and you've created a movement, and you've just talked about building your fan base, blogging, doing guest blog posts, doing tons and tons of radio and TV interviews and things like that. So that's a part of how you were building this movement, but you thought at one point in time, okay, there are people out there who love this concept so much, they want to teach it. They want to talk to us about your licensing or certification program. How did that get started, and how does it work?
Sure. Like many things, it started by listening to the marketplace. Many people would ask Kathy, my business partner, and me if we offered, and they usually put it in the vernacular of coaching. Do you offer any kind of arrangement where someone could license your information to use as coaching? And we hadn't, we kind of resisted it for a couple of years until we felt we were set up to be able to do it. And the technology has certainly made it a lot easier, and Kathy is such an expert with technology and systemizing things. You've gotten to know Kathy, so she's amazing. And so we started to do that at that point, and that was fine. But we also found that, I'm not really positioned as a coach, and I'm not thought of as a coach because I'm not a coach. I'm a speaker. And so we had a lot more people that seemed to be interested in the speaking aspect. And while we had while we teamed up with a master coach who did a wonderful job of putting together, her name is Dixie Gillespie, and she did a great job of really rewriting a curriculum into a coaching type of thing. That really wasn't where our heart was. We really felt like people wanted to be a speaker with this more than a coach. So we still allow coaches to come in, but we let them know that they can, that if they're already a coach that has a successful coaching practice, they can buy the rights to coach utilizing the Go-Giver program. And by the way, that in the Go-Giver methodology, if you will, encompasses the 5 laws from the Go-Giver, and they go actually very deep, much more than the parable, the surface part, and also endless referrals, which is really laws 2 and 3 from the Go-Giver. The newest program, Adversaries into Allies, the newest book, and that's really has a lot to do with influence and the different programs we have. So they're actually buying a whole lot of material, the rights to a whole lot of material, and then Kathy and I do a very intensive continuing teaching, both by phone and by events. In fact, and where we teach how to market. But it was really funny because I had felt, and I told you this when we first spoke, that while I can show someone how to market themselves or as a speaker, I wasn't sure if, in fact, was quite certain that a lot of the things I did when I first started, while I knew the principles involved were still valid because principles don't change, I knew that there's so much more people can do that because my business is more established, I don't do, but that people who are just starting out, like a lot of our speakers, they need to know, and that's when I asked Joe Calloway, a man for whom I have such great respect, who he would recommend, and he just couldn't say enough about you, and you came on and did a call, and we had people immediately bought your books, took your training, and just haven't stopped raving about you. So I always go back to the pro and say, hey, that's who you learn from, and so. So that's really what we do. So we really teach them how to have a speaking practice, as well as, and this is very important to Kathy and me both, that they really, really understand how to teach the Go-Giver in the various parts of it. We really don't want someone representing our brand that that doesn't really understand it. So we're choosy. We don't just it's not a matter of if you have the money you can be one of our speakers. I'm much too paranoid about that.
Well, and that's a good thing, because we know that there are a lot of people out there delivering a lot of products to speakers, and for those of you listening, by golly, you should be cautious. You should be cautious, and if they're taking just everybody who has the money, then maybe that is a little bit suspect. So I think that that's admirable, and I said there was no smoke and mirrors here, and that's exactly what we're talking about. So just in terms of breaking it down for us, in case anybody else is thinking about certifying their things, how often do you meet with people? Just give us a little tiny snapshot of that so we save time for other things.
Well, we have at least a couple of calls a month, and I'm always on the call. Kathy is always on the call. It's not as though we farm that out. We're always on there, teaching, listening, hearing questions. We have basically have 3 calls per month, and a what would you call it? A retreat, if you will, or an advance, whatever,
right.
in which we have a small group of speakers. They'll have the opportunity to do this at least once a year. Some come back though, where we do a 3-day live certification training. And that's where it gets very intense. It's a lot of fun though, and we go over the how to speak, how to market, how to do this, how to do that. That we go through the entire drilling on what is this about. How would you basically answer this question or that question or this objection or what have you. And then one of the days is we video everyone doing a 20 to 30 minute presentation, and we critique it. And they also have a video they can take with them. So we try to really equip them with the how-tos and the and really the mentorship, in a sense, really the caring of them knowing that they've got someone who's in their corner.
Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people really appreciate having a mentor.
Yeah.
So maybe if there's someone on the line who doesn't quite have all of their content, their material, and they read the Go-Giver and they think that they would like to get involved, they can go to Burg.com, Burg.com, and is that the best way to get in touch with you?
That's really my home base, in a sense. That's where the blog is too. But Burg.com, they can find everything. If they did want specific speaker information, they could go to GoGiverSpeaker.com, and that actually outlines the entire program. The key, Jane, I think, is that anyone listening to this call.
Wait.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, that was just me. I was trying to pull up your website. And
I'm sorry.
I'm talking to myself.
No, that's okay. The big thing is that anyone on this call who you're coaching, you're teaching, they have great information on what they're doing, and they have their own platform. They have their own speaking, regardless of what they speak on, and so they can duplicate this very same thing. It might be a year from now. It might be 5 years or 10 years from now. I don't know, but anyone who is speaking and who builds a good speaking practice will be able to do that very same thing, and they'll be able to certify people to teach their information.
So do you ever think to yourself, I'm kind of training up a lot of my own competition here? Or is that just not the Go-Giver philosophy?
Well, I mean, hey, even as even as with the Go-Giver philosophy, you certainly don't. Part of the real world is competition. I mean, we live out of an abundance mindset, but if there's 10 salespeople trying to sell the same thing and there's one prospect, that you're trying to have the sale happen. So there's nothing go-giverish about, there's nothing self-sacrificial or martyrish about being a go-giver by any means. But no, in this case, I don't think it's something that would come to Kathy's in my mind, only because first of all, they've paid for the right to utilize the information. And what we do is when someone calls, let's say they've read the book or the book's gone through their organization, and they call and speak to Kathy about having me come in, when she tells them the fee, if the fee is totally, too high for this particular group, she recommends one of our other speakers. So we actually
nice.
We're actually able to provide business to our speakers as opposed to them being competition. Now, would it maybe ever happen that because I'm X dollars, that they might hear about one of my other speakers who's X dollars and maybe utilize him or her? Hey, it could happen. But what if it does? It does. I think the upside is so much more than any potential downside that it's. It's not something that's gonna come back to haunt us in any way.
And we've always, I think, you and I are on the same page in terms of just the knowledge that the pie is big enough. The pie is big enough for everybody.
Absolutely.
And I believe that most decisions based in fear are wrong. I've had that in my mind now for about 15 years. Mm-hmm. And so I'll really go back and say, now, am I doing that realistically? Because I really do think you could chunk it down to, is it a fear-based decision or is it actually just a smart business decision?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
And I think you put that perfectly because, again, it doesn't mean that that we should be naive. We live in prosperity, in a prosperity mindset. We live in abundance, but that doesn't mean that, you lay down like a doormat and just say, oh, okay, well, no, you live realistically, but you always, you always interpret things the best way and in a way that's serving both you and others, and you run your life that way. And hey, life is life, and things are gonna happen sometimes, but usually
they are.
From an abundance mindset, it works out pretty well.
It does. Okay, now you also have a subscription program. I'm so curious about that. Tell us what that looks like.
Yeah, this is something Kathy and I put together, I think about a year. Well, we worked on it for about a year, I think, before we actually introduced it publicly. It's called Go Givers International, and this is it's a membership community. And it's fee paid. It's $19.97 a month, so $20 a month, and it's ongoing. We don't charge in advance; it's strictly month by month, and it's a community. And it's really we kind of call it a community of people who live their lives and conduct their business the Go-Giver way. Which basically, when we say that, it means that they follow the 5 laws of the Go-Giver. They understand and live their lives and business by the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. And so by the very nature of the thing, you've got people, and we've got people from all different countries, and everybody shares advice with each other. Somebody has a question, I'm having trouble with this, blah, 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 and you've got like all of a sudden, 10 people answering and providing, help and so forth, and it's really a neat thing. And then twice a month we have these very special calls where we'll have a person come in who is, it might be somebody that, it might be a Chris Brogan. We had Chris on that, everybody knows in the world of the internet and this and that, and Chris did a wonderful job. But it also might be somebody who you've never heard of, who's quietly built a $10 million business and is really just sharing everything with everyone. We had someone on just a couple days ago, the co-founder of Ninja Selling, which basically is a real estate train. And he was absolutely brilliant. And there was a 7-minute stretch near the end where he took us through the process. Larry Kendall, his name is, if anybody, where he took us through the process of where he really used all 5 laws from the Go-Giver. I mean, where he so focused on bringing value to another person that every question he asked this person, by the nature of the question, added value to that prospect's life, helped this person to really feel comfortable with Larry because he knew Larry was putting that person's interests first in a very authentic and genuine way, and took something from really a no sale because the person didn't have the information they need to a very, very big sale, which was mutually beneficial for them both. And he shared that in 7 minutes, and I mean, my goodness gracious, for someone paying $20 a month, we know they're getting a lot more value than what they're paying for. So we've really tried to create this community, and so far working well. Hey, not anywhere near as large as we want it, but we're continuing to work on that too. So it's a work in progress.
You're on the grow. You're on the grow with this. So tell us in terms of what your involvement is, your time commitment to it. What are you actually giving the person? So I'm very curious about this one especially because I've been thinking, my partner Joe Calloway and I have been thinking about what's next for us. So I'm really exploring all of the ideas. What does this involve in terms of your own time?
Well, I always talk about Kathy, my business partner, as being that, that picture of the swan that is just beautifully gliding effortlessly, above the water. But underneath, that the feet are really
going.
Right, exactly.
Nice.
And that's what she does, and and so she puts a lot of time. She puts more time into it than I do, but it's something where the energy and the time does go into that. And here's one reason why. We know, or we don't know, whoever knows, but what we really believe is that, and this is where, those who are listening today might want to develop their own membership community and think about the same thing. We believe that as we really grow the numbers of this membership community, that it's also what's going to sort of lead to everything else. So in other words, the more people and the more high-quality people that are members of this, the more that is already a very qualified group of people to purchase other products that can add value to them. There are people who are much more likely to raise their hands and want to be certified speakers, where that fee is more substantial. And what does that do when we have all these speakers out there? That also keeps promoting the book and the message. It's going to help in terms of additional books. It's going to help in terms of, more of the public seminars and so forth. So, and as you know, and I've told you this, at 56 years old, I was never a road warrior. I never really spoke more than 50 or 60 times a year, and now I think it's down to about 40 or so, and I want it going lower every year. So we want to get to that point where really it's much more of an online, where we do everything basically from online, all from the comforts of our own homes, and so forth, and we're able to just kind of refer our certified speakers. But everything we think, everything will start with that home base of the membership when the numbers are high enough.
Very good. So that's kind of like the feeder of the waterfall, and then it rolls down into everything else. Well, you and I can be the chairman and the chairwoman of the International Make Money in Your Jammies Committee.
Right. We like that. Yeah.
I like that idea very much myself. So, okay, I'm putting these all. If anybody is tuning in on the Start Meeting wall, I'm just adding these links as we go. Community page, and they can grab the links as we're going. I've been kind of showing them your pages as we've been going along, Bob. Okay, so the goal is to kind of reverse, and you're at 40 a year right now. What would you like to see your number? What's your magic number in terms of on-the-road gigs?
Oh, I think 12 would be good. One a month. Because and I do love the speaking part still. I've never tired of that. I mean, if I could do every program at the Jupiter Beach Resort or the local Wyndham that's coming up, and right in Jupiter, Florida, where I live, I could do 200 a year because I do love what I speak on. I enjoy the message and the interaction with people. I just the traveling has never been something I've really really love, but it's something I've put up with. And of course, you reframe and say, hey, it's better than taking the bus or taking the train. At least
Sure.
you're getting somewhere and you're getting there fairly quickly. But not my favorite part. I'm more of a homebody.
Sure. And, well, maybe I have another business idea for you. Maybe you start your own convention center, and so that all the conventions just come to Jupiter, Florida.
That would be so good, yeah.
There you go.
I like that. I like that idea. I like how you think, Jane.
Build it and they will come.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I'll sign up because I have an event in January that I'd like to have down there. Okay. So let's talk about team. You and Kathy, business partners, explain it to us because I know that people are saying, where did this beautiful Kathy person come from? Where is that person who's making everything happen underneath the surface of the water? I know that everybody would love to have a Kathy, so just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have a saying. It goes, everybody needs a Kathy.
Yes.
Okay, and that's probably the biggest question I get, because anybody who really knows me, it doesn't take them long to understand that Kathy is the brains of the outfit. And so they always ask, and I wish I could tell them, give them an easy answer, but there isn't one, because remember, most of the Kathys are already out there doing their own thing, and they have their own business. And Kathy actually did when we first met. What happened, make a long story as short as I possibly can, Kathy and a former business partner of hers years ago used to run an online magazine, and I was writing for that magazine. And two and two were never put together for a while, until Kathy realized that she had been, when she was doing corporate sales, she was the team leader of a corporate sales team, and she was using my book Endless Referrals as a training tool. And then the names got put together, so we spoke and so forth. And then at the time, I had sort of had the idea of doing some public seminars, and where I'd go to a certain city and do a public seminar, and it would be up to the local person to be able to get sponsors and to sell tickets and so forth and so on. I knew that the name Bob Burg wasn't going to draw people, but I thought the title Endless Referrals could, because of course that's what people generally want who are in sales and small business. So we had a couple of them with people, and they got some people there, and a couple of them worked out, but nothing special. Well, Kathy, who was living in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the time, wanted to do one. And so Kathy put the whole thing together. And again, as I said, she's an amazing systemizer, and she's brilliant. And she put together, and she works very hard. And she put together this beautiful event and had all these sponsors. And there were probably about 250 people there. And the product sales were great, and the sponsorship sales were wonderful. It really worked out. And I said, hey, Kathy, how would you like to coordinate these all over the country? And of course, she also had her own business that she was doing, another thing. But she liked the idea of that and was putting some together. And then she actually was in, I think the next place was Reno, and she went in there knowing nobody and put one together. So, she systemized it. And what is a system? Well, a system is basically the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. That's what a system is by its very nature. And the key is predictability. If you know that by doing A you'll get the desired result of B, then all you need to do is A and do A constantly and consistently, and you're going to get the desired results of B. And so she put together a great system for this. And eventually it just, we were working together so much and on different projects, I just asked her to be my business partner. Because I knew that there was, much more that could be accomplished in this business with her as my partner, as opposed to, just being a contractor and so forth.
Yes.
So it's been that way now for several years and has been terrific.
I think for people who are thinking about hiring, they can certainly start, small. Sometimes you just need to start with a few hours from a virtual assistant and then kind of build from there. I believe the ultimate relationship, it's the same one that I had with several of the speakers that I used to represent, because I started back as an agent for speakers, or kind of a business manager. That's the ultimate relationship, is that they're your business partner, that they're in it to grow it with you, and then it's not it's not something where they're with you for 2 years and you're doing pretty well, but then they go on to something bigger and better. So I think that partnership idea is really wonderful. And as a little aside, Kathy, I know you're on the line. If you ever want to do a speaker manager school, I'll be right there with you, because I have seen this hole in the market for people needing, people like Kathy, and when I used to be an agent, we could train people up, and I think that's another business opportunity for us. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Oh, Kathy says sounds great on the chat. Okay.
See, I'm the only one. I'm left out here. I'm not on the chat window, so I have no idea what's happening there. So.
That's okay. You're the low-tech man, and that's okay. I've been on your calls when she's been the one in charge of everything. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, you've sold over 1 million copies of your books, and that certainly takes, so it used to be that you did a lot of that back of room, and you don't do that anymore, correct?
I actually, here's the funny thing, I actually never sold the books back of room. I sold CDs back when, but of course, before then it was cassette tapes, right? But then CDs, and that's what I sold in back of the room. A lot of the sales came because at the time I was, for probably over the course of about 6 or 7 years, I was doing a lot of speaking for network marketing organizations at their conferences. And what they would do is they would utilize the book as their book of the month.
Yep.
And so there were lots of, now once they would utilize once they utilized Endless Referrals as the book of the month, which was the one, that took me tons of calls and doing all that, right? But then I'd come out with another book, and they were predisposed to use that one. Yeah, at least I could get the book in front of them. Then if they liked the book, they could use that one too. So I kind of had a whole bunch of almost not a ready-made distribution system, because it wasn't like I could just plug it in, but the prospects were out there who knew me, liked me, and trusted me, so they would at least take a look at it.
Right, and I think those multi-level marketing agencies, I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of people right there, and if you have the ear of some powerful people at the top, I think that can be, we've seen other books, the Kiyosaki books, I think got very famous very quickly because of that. So, okay, now, right now, and I can see you probably have like a Callaway philosophy in regards to this. All of your book sales, they go through Amazon, is that right?
A lot of them go through Amazon. We also do a lot through a company called 800C.